To discuss the Prime Minister's trip is Charles Burton, former Canadian diplomat in Beijing and a senior fellow at the think tank Synopsis. Good to see you, Charles. It's been a while.
It's nice to speak with you, Marcia.
All right, going into these meetings, who has more leverage? What do you think the Prime Minister's top priorities should and will be?
Well, obviously we want to diversify our trade away from the United States. We've already lost a proportion of our external trade to the U.S. I'm not confident that China is the answer. I mean, for one thing, right now, only less than 5% of our commodities trade goes to China. So even if we made a massive increase to, say, 6 or 7, it's still far, far short of the drop of 76% to 67% for the U.S. So I think that's mostly about politics rather than substance. But the idea is to try and reestablish a good relationship with China. And Mr. Carney is doing what China wants, which is sending a very high-level delegation, 5 cabinet ministers, the foreign minister, the international industry minister, the agriculture minister, and so on, to basically go to the Chinese and request that they provide us with some improved economic and other conditions. But I'm not expecting that we'll get anything substantive out of this beyond a feeling that Canada and China have good relations. The other risk is that if we're seen as getting too close to China, and if we're allowing Chinese products into Canada untariffed where the U.S. is tariffing them, it could affect the CUSMA negotiations, because the United States will not want Canada to be, in effect, a backdoor for lower tariff Chinese product to get into the U.S. market.
So how then does the PM navigate economic relations with China while balancing our own interests against the tariffs? And what about the tariffs on electric vehicles, Charles?
Well, this is quite problematic with the electric vehicles, because the Chinese electric vehicles are very heavily subsidized by the Chinese state, similar to their very heavy subsidies to the Huawei 5G. And so if they did come into our market, they would devastate our own production. I don't know if the Prime Minister has an idea whether he could say to the United States, well, if you're going to reshore our auto production to the U.S., devastating our auto industry, then we might as well allow the Chinese EVs in. I don't think that Trump would take well to that kind of coercive measure. And there's also been talk in Washington that if Canada has Chinese manufactured EVs, the U.S. will not allow them to cross into the U.S. because of the security issue, on the view that these EVs are like spy machines on wheels with all the data that they're able to gather. So I think it's unlikely that we'll do that. Premier Ford has suggested that he would encourage Chinese manufacture of EVs in Ontario. I'm not sure that solves the problem.
Interesting. Based on your experience, what have diplomats been doing behind the scenes to lay the groundwork to repair ties as this visit is upon us?
Well, I think that certainly we've eased down on a lot of our non-trade concerns. So Canada has been, compared to other major industrialized countries, muted on issues like Hong Kong, particularly Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong publisher who has been subject to horrible detention for quite a long time, a man whose family is in Canada and who would settle most likely in Niagara-on-the-Lake if he was released. We didn't make as much of a statement on the recent Taiwan exercises. And we haven't acted on the June 2024 Bill C-70, which called for establishment of a Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner and a Foreign Influence Transparency Registry, nor have we really done anything about what we learned in the Ogg Commission with regard to Chinese influence operations, harassment of people inside Canada, and espionage. And today, the Canadian Coalition for Human Rights in China has issued quite a strong letter to the Prime Minister expressing concern that they are being shunted aside in the interests of Canada trying to curry favor with the Chinese regime and gain economic benefits.
Charles, thanks again. We'll talk to you again this week as we watch the Prime Minister's visit play out. Charles Burton is a former Canadian diplomat in Beijing and a senior fellow at the think tank Synopsis.